she's been making a living with this farm for just the last year and a half. She got married during the pandemic, and her husband, Elliot, is an amazing guy that we all agreed that it would be proper to call him the MacGyver of farming, because he can fix anything with duct tape and wire or whatever. So again, if you didn't see that live, please watch the replay. Mark probably doesn't have it done yet. Is it done yet, Mark, the replay? Okay, well, by tomorrow, it'll be ready. Before that, last week we had, and the week before, we've had Jake and Gianni, who showed us, and we're going to get them back again, but showed us how they've converted a bus into their home. And I mean, went into great detail with us, and we'll even get more. Christy Willamini, who there's Vanessa over there, who was with us yesterday. Christy Willamini was amazing. And Mark, what's interesting is I've been editing this site. So let's see if my edits show through. Go up above. So Monique was also with us recently, and she was amazing. Now go further up the site, Mark, up, that way. Whoa, so what page is this? What is this? I thought this was the eatcommunity.com website. So just go to the home page. So let's see how perceptive people are. If you can and you want to do it, put in the question and answer box some changes that I made today. Mark, and there's some in that first section. There's some right here. So you see what maybe I did a little differently, Mark? Just some subtle little things, but I put a little better description of really what it is that we do, rather than just saying that we're innovators and entrepreneurs and farmers in sustainability. Instead, I changed it to saying sustainable, regenerative, restorative, living, working, and playing. The reality is that's the definition of ecolonomics, or a good definition for it. So I changed that because that's clearly what we're trying to do, is to be economic and teach people about ecolonomics. So scroll down a little more, Mark, just above all the photos. And I changed this section. And first, it was inappropriate before. It said, browse our lessons by topic. Well, we don't show topics below here. Instead, we show people. Now, Mark, stay up above, please. You don't need to go to all the pictures we've seen. Okay, go back up a little. All right, no, a little more. All right, so that instead of just, we're talking about the browse our lessons by speaker, Mark, so that's what I want people to see. Whoa, Mark and I are on different pages today, everybody. I don't know what's going on. You hear me, Mark, by the way? Maybe it's my mic or something. By the way, everybody, put questions in whenever you have them. We're going to finish up our series today on using 5 important keys to make your life better and do some things in agriculture, and a case study that we're doing about what I've done on my farm and what I'm doing. So please put some questions in about that if you have them. And Mark will tell me about them, because I'm going to continue to look at the screen. Put some 1s in right now, if you wouldn't mind, if you're seeing everything all right. That would be awesome too, and Mark can look at those. And so I made a few changes here, Mark. I said, I added more to this browse our lessons by speaker, and changed that from topic to speaker. And then I said, these are just a few of our hundreds of amazing speaker teachers we've had the privilege to have with us through the years. Click on any picture and learn a little bit about these rock stars and what they have taught about Eddie. And Mark, this is mainly for you now. We'll talk about this later. But right now, if you click on these, you're going to actually get to see a webinar from them free. That's going away. That was never the intent for this web page. We want you to join EAT. Then you can watch all kinds of webinars for free, and it's free to join. So Mark and I will talk about it, but we're going to change. When you click on these, you're going to see a little story about Sarah, for example, or about William, or about Dave. And then there's going to be an opt-in where you can actually join EAT community and then get sent to right to where you could watch a webinar that Sarah's done. All these people have done complete courses for us. Mark's done over 100 weeks of unique information. William, who's a rock star, has done 21 weeks, I think. Sarah actually taught her course about chickens twice and has done some amazing things. Elaine, you probably all know, Elaine has done 6 or 7 sessions with us and talking about the soil food web and done amazing things. Vale, I don't remember how many sessions that Vale did. Vale just had a baby, by the way, so congratulations, Vale, if you watched this. And I actually don't think we did a whole series yet with Vale. Will Harris, White Oak Pastures. Mark, stay with Will, please. Will has not done a series, but we're going to try to get one. Will is a rock star, I mean, big time. He's a Joel Salatin. He's that well known. The stuff he's done on his farm is just amazing. We've done a 20-week sessions with Evans, who's an amazing progressive farmer. We've done farm resources, economics with Hugh Goebel, a business plan. You can get a business plan for how to plan your farm just right off of what Hugh did. You can get spreadsheets, all that for free. Robert Christopher has done multiple series with us. Bob's my partner and a friend, done all kinds of things. Nick Burton did a short series on marketing. Jeffrey has done a series on the whole global issue. He's a college professor. He's amazing, and about the local food revolution. Mike Warren, the next row, has done a bunch of series with us. He actually helped us host a number of our speakers who have done multiple week series on alternative health and how to manage your health. Keep scrolling down so I can see the pictures right where Mike Warren is. Mark, please. Alan Booker has done an amazing series for us on, as it says here, ecological solar design. Alex Ziegler, and a lot of these people you've never heard of. You probably haven't heard of Mike Warren. You probably haven't heard of Jeffrey Poten. You probably haven't heard of Alexi. Maybe has heard of Alan. Alan's more well known. But Alexi has done an amazing series on a living energy farm, literally teaching you how to use a variety of renewable, sustainable, all those right words, energy sources on in your house even. But maybe specifically he talked about your farm, but that could be a really small farm. And then Chris Searles did a whole series on the global biospheric restoration. So I'm going to edit a little more of this page over time, but that's what's been done for now. So, Mark, I am going to take the screen, if you would give it to me, please. All right, thank you, man. Mark has been so amazing, everybody, for this. If you wouldn't mind, put some ones in the question mark box saying, and that's also a way of applauding for Mark. So put some ones and then put Mark's name in if you would. Let's go to the view. I think in 4.5 years, he's maybe missed 3 of these, is all. Just hasn't missed it. It's loading, everybody, on my end. Mark, tell me when it comes up. I'm going to turn my webcam off so it'll show. Did I already turn my webcam off, or is it still on? Do I need to turn it off? Yeah, but the webcam's still on too. I'm turning that off. All right, just a very short review. Last week, I talked about this first key for, again, I think this is for your life. You can use, if you follow these 5 keys in your life, you're going to have an amazing experience, maybe better than you're having now. Certainly, if you follow these in your farming or your business of any kind, it'll be amazing for you. So and Mark, you're going to have to watch questions here and maybe respond to them, or tell me about them so that I can respond. I'm going to move away from my screen here, my little box for GoToWebinar. All right, a real quick review. Last week we talked about this and about my own story, which is history, and how important this first piece was, alfalfa and the Antelope Valley, how important this one was with my high school teacher and Dr. Hubbs, who founded SeaWorld. And I was very lucky to be there with him when that all happened. Steve Surfling, literally a genius in the whole area of aquatic ecology and aquaculture. And I had the privilege of being with him at Scripps for 2 years, and then was lifelong friends with him until unfortunately he died. University of Idaho I didn't talk that much about it, but gave me amazing experiences when I was there as both a college student, a graduate student, and a professor. ATC is a company that I founded and again had a huge impact. Again, history and observation. Use history, make observations, and then proceed. Northern Colorado and Mountain Sky Ranch. This whole case study is about that. And we're going to now move into things. This is Chuck Yeager, happened to live down the street from me, was a really good friend of my dad. I got to learn about him. These are pictures of things. This is Frank Zappa, who lives next door to another person, Neil Armstrong, who grew up literally behind me. And actually, I think I was wrong. I think this is, I've forgotten about the pictures. This is Chuck Yeager. I'm pretty sure this is Neil Armstrong over here. Not positive about it. This is definitely Frank Zappa. It's down here. By the way, that picture of the way our valley looked here, that was only for about 2 weeks of the year. It was beautiful like that with poppies. The California state flower is a poppy. My high school time, really important. My time at college and business for history. University of Idaho, I mentioned, as a professor of businesses that I've had, the scanning electron microscope that I had the fortune to have, some of the companies that I worked with, things that I did in athletics and with dogs, which are and were big to me. A guy named Dick Hahn that I had the great fortune of coaching in tennis, different things again. So then on the level of our ranch, again, this is all review. I talked about this in much more detail last week. What were the history and observations? One, I looked at over 100 different properties all around this area for 2 years to find the one that I thought was best for what we wanted to do, which were mainly dog training and aquaculture and to be near friends. But as it turned out over time, it was other things too. We found after these 2 years, the location where we are now at, called Mountain Sky Ranch. We researched its past. What was going on with it? Turns out there was a quarry. There was marijuana grown here by a guy called the One-Armed Bandit. He was essentially Robin Hood. This area, he would grow marijuana. When the police would come to get him, he would go back up into the woods that we have right behind our house and at our property, and then he would come back when they were gone, and he would use the revenue he made from marijuana to give to the people who lived all around here that were poor. Water rights, which this property had, that was hugely important. Without them, couldn't be doing a lot of the things that we've done. Satellite imagery just showed some of that. I took, 6 months to observe its status before I really did anything. I then used my own professional knowledge to create a plan, and that plan was for dog training, fishing, beauty, and eco-community. And actually, I had given up on the thoughts of aquaculture. So keep that in your mind a little bit as we move forward here. This was an aerial of it. I showed some better ones after this last week. So this moves now on to the new topics for this week, which is key 2, construct by failing forward. I ended on this slide last week, talked about Thomas Edison, who is a great example of this. And this is just a great little thought that I think we should live by: dream big, start small, act now. So, how should you do this? First, think about it and live it. Don't worry about failing, ever. There's nothing wrong with failing. We all fail. So many people get all upset and they quit what they're doing because they're failing. Don't worry about failing. What you should worry about is another way that word's used, which is failure. Failure means you have ultimately quit. Be excited about the fact that you're failing. It's hard to do, I know that, but do it. And then don't live hour to hour, don't live week to week, month to month. You got to think ahead a lot, but live minute to minute. Make this minute, right now, the best it can be. Make the very best out of this minute. Can't change the past, but you can learn from it. We talked about that in key number 1. Make everything you do the best you can do it. Everything. Sleep the best you can sleep. Pick your nose the best you can pick it. I'm joking, but that is, I kind of mean that. Brush your teeth the best way you can do it. Everything, not just your job. Everybody said, here, do your job the best you can do it. If you can, do everything. None of us ever do that. We are never able to achieve that, but set a goal to try to do everything you do the best you can do. You'll be so happy about yourself and what you accomplish if you do that. Again, and we're going to get to this with key number 5, and this so well fits Thomas Edison. Dream big dreams, and then work to achieve them in all you do, which means if your dream for your farm is to, make a living on it, and right now you're not, and you're a mechanic, you're a doctor, you're a teacher, whatever. When you are farming, teaching, doctoring, keep having those big dreams while you're working. You don't have to always just concentrate completely. So I don't mean that if you're a doctor and you're doing surgery that you should let your mind get clogged by dreaming the big dreams about what you could do on your farm. But, there's so many times in your day that you could think about them and dream about them. And then, again, work to achieve them. You can do lots of little things, remember the little things, in other things you're doing, even if it isn't directly related to what you'd like to achieve. Don't be frustrated by failing. There's nothing wrong with it. We've already talked about this. Learn from it. So when you fail, think about it after you've failed at something and think, how can I avoid having that happen again? What can I do differently? Be like Thomas Edison. I said this many times. I didn't invent the light bulb. I just found 9,999 ways to not invent it. I got lucky one time. Whenever you find yourself slipping backwards, find an action that best energizes you. And it's different for all of us, okay? What energizes me won't energize you necessarily. And again, I've just put some things here. Meditation, exercise, reading. You know, don't do something just because everybody says you should do it. Do it, especially when you're struggling with something. You fail. You just keep failing. Thomas Edison kept failing. And if you study his life history, he talked about how when I was failing and feeling like I just never was going to make it, I'd go do something that I really enjoyed that energized me. In my case, it's sports, doing something active, doing something I know I kind of can have a pretty good chance to have success in. I enjoy reading too, but I've gotten to the point where I actually enjoy audible reading, so audio reading more. But again, I will sometimes do reading also. I wish I would actually do meditation more. I do it a little, but for me, it's exercise. All right. Now we're going to talk about what I did here at Mountain Sky Ranch. And there are going to be some images of it after this slide. I think I told you, I bought Mountain Sky Ranch 14 years ago, or almost 15, and it was an overgrazed cattle field with relatively no water. It had one little pond that really hadn't been managed, and the stream that I knew was there was underground. And as I was doing things, and you're going to see it in bullets that will come, to improve that water system, I also got the animals that were destroying this place, the cattle, off of it, and I just let the land rest for a couple of years. Now, I'm not an expert in the grazing and agriculture side. People like Mark Shepard and William Horvath and Evan Folds are those kinds of people. But I learned from them, and I had been learning from them before I started doing this. Joel Salatin, name I mentioned, before I started doing this at this place. So I just knew that if I let it rest for some period of time, it was going to be good. And it turned out it was really good. I don't know if 2 years was long enough, if it was too long, but it worked. But by the way, it meant I had to be very patient. During that same period, I was opening up springs that were what historically had caused there to be a creek on the property called Meadow Hollow Creek. I had used history to find out that this was called Meadow Hollow Canyon, and that this creek, when it was there, by the way, neighbors that had lived here 20 plus years before I came here had never seen water. So they were shocked that I was able to find water. But I've had a lot of experience with this. This isn't something that just happened accidentally. I've opened up springs. I've created water, brought water, helped bring water to the surface where it hadn't been for long periods of time. I've done that in many places. So this is my expertise. I went to school and have worked in this particular area, mostly for other people, not for myself, for a long time. So I was able to do it here. Any questions, Mark, that I should address right now? Okay. All right. I expanded only one pond right away. That was that first one, that when it started was about an acre, and I expanded it to about 3 acres and managed it while I was letting the land rest for mainly dog training and fishing. I was already at that time, in 2006, doing world class in terms of the amount we did, aquaponics and hydroponics and other things at some warehouses that we were fortunate to have, and greenhouses about a 15-minute drive from here. So I didn't need to worry about doing those things here. Now, over time, I've moved out of those places, and I'm doing those kinds of things here, mainly in shipping containers. In that first pond, I planted rainbow trout, only because that's what I wanted to catch. Rainbow trout would not spawn, would not create young. They would not become established in this particular pond, or even in my system at all. I don't have enough running water that provides them places to lay their eggs and spawn. But the water quality and the water temperature were appropriate. However, a lot of people told me that it wasn't. A lot of people said it gets too hot. The water gets too warm. You can't grow trout here. Well, I've had trout here now for 15 years. I don't believe I've lost one trout to temperature-related issues. If I have, I'm not aware of it. I've lost trout to bears. I've lost trout to other kinds of predators, to raptors, eagles, hawks, you name it, but not to water temperature, which a lot of people said, you're flat out crazy, you can't grow trout. I put trout in this first pond just because I wanted to catch them. That's what I enjoy doing. Over time, I actually eliminated them from that pond. And I didn't do it on purpose, but the weather did, because in 2013, we had such a massive flood here that they got washed out of that pond down into the creek that was below it. And I was intending to get rid of them eventually anyway, because I really wanted that pond to become primarily, from a fish side, a smallmouth bass pond. The biggest thing I did, other than, again, I left my own, the land around the farm resting, but I was able to manage other things about land up gradient from my farm in the ecosystem and in the area. One neighbor was way overgrazing a piece with cattle. And I said, is it possible that I can show you how you could develop a way to graze a little differently, and I'll even create the pastures for you? And he said, great, I'm not going to do the work, but if you do, it would be great. So I did that, and we eliminated nutrients from coming into our system by doing that. There were dead trees that we cut down in some of the ecosystem that drains into our system. We did a number of things there. And I kept opening up springs. I kept going upstream from this main pond for about a half a mile, up all the way to our property line. And now, and you'll see the picture of it, you saw it last week, there are 16 ponds that I was able to create because I brought water up and allowed them to be created. Now, I couldn't have done that legally, and so many farmers here in Colorado and a lot of the western United States can't, if I didn't have water rights. So it was very important that I had water rights when I bought the property. I had to be smart about that. So here's some images that show some of the cool things we've done. This is what we call the mobile barn. This is a mobile home that has been converted into a small livestock animal barn, meaning you wouldn't want to put horses and cattle in here, but it is plenty good for smaller livestock, alpaca, goat, sheep, probably not hogs. We haven't done hogs here. I'm going to throw out a request. Anybody listening, or if you know anybody that would like to be a hog farmer on our land in a sharing economy mentality, I'll talk more about that in weeks to come. have them get a hold of me, or you get a hold of me. I'm going to put out to the whole EAT community in the next several weeks a request, because I'd love to have a hog farmer here to be part of our community. So we built this mobile barn, and you can see we sited it, made it look a little more natural, look like the area. There are 4 different entryways into different areas that we've used. The 4th one's over this direction. This is 70 feet long by 12 feet wide. And again, when it was a living unit, this was a bedroom back here. There wasn't a door here. We put these doors on the outside. This was a bedroom. We put a door there. In between here and there was a bathroom. That's what we have as an office now. We put a door here. You know, I'm wrong. This is actually the 3rd door. There are only 3. Whoa, I did something weird there. Why are we having feedback? Crap, what's going on? My keyboard fell off. Okay, let's see that. Is that gone? Mark, did I get rid of that feedback? Okay. And I went away from the present view. You don't want to drop your computer. You don't want to drop your keyboard. Okay, back to present. Any questions yet, Mark, from anybody? All right. All right, well, we put this in the first 2 years where we were letting the land rest. We didn't build all this stairway and sort of elevated. We did this after that. I think year 2, we had a market farm in this area where we grew 80 different varieties of plants with a farmer that we, again, had a sharing economy relationship with. This was a picture of that first pond very early, probably in that first year or 2, where we were doing what I told you we wanted to do, which is dog training. These are people training their retrievers. This lady had just done hers, and she's walking back from right up here where they're running across over to here. These people are watching. Another thing I didn't mention, but we built a nice home that was our dream. We saved money for our whole lives to do, and it was intended to be both an event center and a residence. This is natural stone. It's a LEED platinum related house, which means it has all kinds of characteristics. Nothing on it came from more than 200 miles away. Almost all the materials were native to the area. All this stone was. This is cedar siding, locally done. This metal roof is made locally. All of these big posts and beams, and they're all inside also, were locally made. The house was constructed with what are called SIP panels, structurally insulated panels. That have an R value in the 30s. Below grade, we use insulated concrete systems, ICPs. So very, very energy efficient home. Really cool place. We did lots of events in it. And unfortunately, we failed. We lost it during the recession that occurred in 2008, 2009. And nothing to do with our inability to really afford it here. We had other real estate related business things that we had done at other locations, other properties throughout our area that we just had problems with and lost. And there's a whole story there. This picture, I point this out. This is a house up here. It's quite a ways away, a couple miles away. This is all of our property. It's a rainbow that we took. This is what we use for fencing. This is our electrified portable fencing. We move animals around. The this is after we had let it rest for those 2 years, and it was starting to come back. It's still not what it looks like now. This would have been probably in the spring sometime. But it's still much better than it was. This is probably a picture from 09, 010, something like that. But anyway, this house, the guy that grew up in this house had been looking down to our quarry over here and had been illegally at times coming over here when he was 12 years old, 15 years old, until he became an adult. And when I met him when he was 21, he walked down here to our place and said, could I operate your quarry, which we have on the property? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. That's not ecological. I resisted him. But he was a persistent guy, and he eventually convinced me that we could do ecologically based quarrying. We'll have a whole webinar about that someday. But that's something that we did start to do, again, about 2.5 years after we had let the property rest. This you only see a little bit of it. This is a Pagoran goat. It is a yarn, a wool producing goat, and we started with them and had a herd of them. We only have one left from that. She's about 15 years old. Just decided those were not something we wanted to continue doing. This is actually down in Mexico at a site we were starting that is much like our ranch here, and we helped them set it up as an ecologically balanced location, and it's a lot like what Mountain Sky Ranch is. So we were able to kind of duplicate what we did here there. This is some of the lower end of our stream system many years ago now, but it had been well restored. This was the end of our property back at that time. And then we live in this valley. It's the sides here don't look as steep, and this looks wider than it is. Sometimes pictures tell lies, and this isn't really, the valley is much narrower. Most people call this a canyon, not a valley. These are tall mountains that we get views of that are in the distance from our place, and they're beautiful. And you know, right now, like yesterday, they had snow on them, and we didn't. We were perfectly dry, and we got a snowstorm last night and today. This is when we started digging ponds and increasing. This was after 2 years. I think this was actually in 2010, so it was actually 4 years after we bought the place. These were some ponds down in this area here, and you can see when you put in ponds, you get a lot of dirt out of them. We obviously just couldn't leave that dirt there. We had to move it around, and we did, and put the ground back into a place that felt good to us. Here is our big pond now. We call it our main pond. It's about 2 acres now rather than its original 1 acre. It also is much deeper than it was then. And we did that by extracting some of the soil that had built up with it, the bottom, the mud that had built up over the years. Now 18 feet deep. We have about 11,000 smallmouth bass in it. And I've talked about this before. It will come up on future slides, but we farm that in a very conscious manner and sell those fish to chefs. This is an event that we have regularly called Celebrate Sustainability. It occurs in the fall. This is my lovely wife, Deb. This is a 1981 pickup truck that would not be affected by any kind of EMP or that kind of circumstance. We like to have vehicles that can be very independent of those kinds of circumstances. This picture is probably only a couple of years old. This is either 18 or 19. Mark Shepard, right here, who was there during the time. This actually is some people who were here for our event. I don't even know who this guy, I think I know who he is, but example, it was a hayride. We would take people around the property. This is very early on, but after we let the ground rest, this is how beautiful the grass became down in the upper portion of our pastures. These are alpacas that are grazing by our house area. This is that market farm area that I showed earlier, and a wide variety of what's there. This is not here. This is a picture from a farm that I've done consulting on in Big Sur, California. And these are just the way koi will line up when they're schooling. This is here, and this is in a pond where we were rearing for a very short period of time, way too many fish, short meaning weeks, and then we moved them from there into some other ponds. This is what the vegetation began to look like once we had really brought it back. And it's the way it looks today when it's not mowed. And this is still a number of years ago because we still hadn't put in our upper ponds here, which go back this way and all the way up to beyond these trees. So this was before we put those in. This is just, I just turned around here and looked the other direction from where this picture was taken. So this is looking upstream. This is looking downstream. This is that house that we built. This is a piece we sold to some now neighbors where they built essentially an earthship kind of home, all built into the side of the hill. They have a horrible story that, you know, they failed twice in a big way. They had a home south of here, about 20 miles up in the foothills, and they lost it to a fire, lost everything, called the Crystal Fire about 15 years ago. They moved north to Fort Collins this way. Fort Collins is back here. And they had a home that they lost to a fire there. Well, they still wanted to live rurally. They didn't want to be by any trees. So you notice these trees are quite a ways from them. That house doesn't have one bit of wood in it. It's all metal, stone, and rock, and glass, and no wood. Here was when we were adding and building one of the ponds. This became its dam, so the pond is up above here. This is now what one of the ponds looks like that we had built brand new that the springs go to. This is our main pond you heard me describe. That hay wagon that you saw was sitting right here when that picture was taken. This has been a long time ago because we have a gazebo right here, a fire pit right here. The fire pit was there. This was a pasture area for our alpacas, which is not a pasture area any longer. And we moved ahead. This is actually a pond. This is underwater now from a new pond that we put in. This picture is just a piece of one of the other ponds, shows how beautiful the vegetation has become. This is looking from up at the top of our ridge, 600 plus feet above what is our main pond, this pond right here, looking down on it. All right, well, last couple of things here. After 2 years, we started mob grazing on temporary pastures with alpacas. You saw that. We built 18 ponds that were bathtubs, very steep sides, and we built them in phases because we wanted to have a number of things on it. We observed. We saw how are things working. We also were really always trying to create beauty. That was very important to us. Started catching bass. We had professional fishermen that wanted to come in. Today we are 6 ounces away from the state record smallmouth bass in that big main pond. And that fish is in there. When she was caught before, it's a female, probably. The males don't get as big as the females. She had all kinds of eggs and things in her. And so we have people that come here just to see if they could catch the state record bass. We actually stocked, we increased the density of natural bass and perch, which would live naturally in this area. We haven't stocked since. We probably did our last stocking in 2008 and have never stocked another fish to these ponds. Sometimes we move them around because of wanting to do different things, but we don't do any more stocking. And we just kept expanding ponds. Almost every year, we do some kind of a pond expansion. We'll do it, and we do it in the winter. We usually do it in February. We'll do it again this year. We'll probably almost increase by a third the total area that our ponds take up this year. And we started doing what I said we wanted to do, fishing, training dogs, and we created beauty. And throughout all of that, we managed the ecosystem. And then we did it again, over and over. We just continued to do that now for 15 years. At one point, we took some of the upper ponds and we stocked ornamentals, which are koi, because we knew there was a market for those. We knew that local pet stores, because we used to own a pet store many years ago, back in the 80s, local pet stores that aren't as big as Petco and PetSmart, bought their fish from Florida, and they died, many of them in transport. And then even the ones that lived, they would die after they sold them. We knew if we could have locally produced fish, they'd be bought by these pet stores in huge numbers, and they have been through the years. And there's only about 30 stores in what we call the Front Range here, but we've had a great future in the past selling fish. And then finally, I think I said it, we started to stock yellow perch. They're much more of a carnivore, and we just wanted them to balance our population of smallmouth bass. Key number 3, and I'm not going to finish today. I originally thought I would, and this has gone longer, which is no big deal. You know, that's the way I teach. I'm going to finish this next week. We've got about 10 minutes. I think I'll finish this next key. I won't have a whole session next week on this. It'll probably be half of it or quarter of it. So I'll have other things that I talk about then too. But I think I'll finish key number 3 here. So we did the constructing. We continued to fail forward. And then since then, we've been managing for minimal future input. On a regular basis, we sample the water for what's there. We calculate how much vegetation, riparian means what's along the shoreline, from the cattails up onto the dry ground. What are the invertebrates that are present there, which we have mainly snails, crayfish, and lots of other insects of all different kinds. Zooplankton, we've amazingly diverse community. Zooplankton are microscopic little guys. And then we wanted to get not a lot of algae. We didn't want green, awful pools, which a lot of ponds around here become. A lot of people who don't know what they're doing managing ponds end up with just green, algae-ridden junk ponds. We just wanted to have the right amount. We didn't want to have, literally emerald clear mountain types of ponds. We wanted enough algae that it'd be beneficial for all the other organisms, for the ecosystem. And the only way we would know what we had is to sample it. Again, as I said, we manage by continuing to open new springs. Every year, I'll find some new spring I can open up. And then, really importantly, we manage fish densities. And we identified who the key species were, which you'll hear in permaculture and regenerative agriculture. Mark Shepard talks about them in the agriculture sense. This is an aquaculture. And in our system, they were us, humans, and these avian predators, peregrine falcons and eagles and osprey mainly, some hawks also. And so we managed the fish densities so these folks, the key species, wouldn't reduce the fish densities too much. So that was a real key. We managed the ecosystem around, and we have consistently, for appropriate grazing, selective mimic grazing, which we wanted to do that looked like mowing, and we actually mowed ourselves. So that's what I mean there. I'm sorry, by the selective mimic grazing. That was mowing. That helped us produce hay for the winter, feed our animals, and it made the area better for dog training. And then we've done not too much of this perennial tree management. We tried to bring a number of things in here, and we frankly just didn't pay attention to them. We failed. We haven't been a failure yet, but we brought in things that Mark recommended, and we just didn't manage them as much as we should have. The biggest thing we've done, and I mentioned a little bit of it in my whole course that I've taught before on ecological aquaculture, I talk a lot about what we did to manage nutrients from the drainage basin. And we've held events. We want to, and why? Because we think what we've done is pretty cool and people like to learn about it. Second, it generates income. We charge for events. Not a lot, but enough to where people can attend. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So we have about 7 minutes left. So, Mark, any questions? Okay, I didn't get that, so I'm going to show the panel. Look at it. Have you researched cooney grazing pigs? They don't smell bad. Again, as I said, as I started out, David, we have not done swine at all here yet. I want to do it. So let me just talk briefly about the way we manage this also, and I think I'll talk more about that in this T4 next week. We manage it as an ecological business park, which means we bring in experts to do the kinds of farming that gets done here. I'm an expert on aquatic stuff, so I can do that. So now I'm hopefully training people who don't know as much about that so they can take it over from me, because I really want to do less of it. As we brought in alpacas, we brought knowledge about them from mentors that we had that taught us about how to manage alpacas. So we did that, and so we've become pretty expert in that area. I'm going to turn my webcam back on, by the way, the last few minutes here. Great question, by the way, and comment. So we've had the alpacas ourselves, but chickens, we've had as many as 1,500 here. We did an ad in Craigslist, and we interviewed a whole bunch of potential chicken farmers. We told them, if you come here, we'll provide you the land, we'll provide you the structures that you want to build to have the chickens live in. We'll even provide you the capital that you need to get it going. We did that. And we're really proud of the fact that our chicken farmer has now gone on and has her own farm, which is our goal. We want to have people get so good they leave us. And now we're looking for another chicken farm. We did the same in the quarry. And before we were to do anything with pigs, which I want to do, I'll look up CUNY just to see what they are specifically, but I want to find a pig farmer that wants to be here. We'll give them the land. We'll help them with any kind of structures they need. We'll help them with some capital that they need, which means they'll probably have to buy the hogs, and then they need to provide the expertise, and they need to provide the work ethic, and they need to provide essentially the amount of time that they can put into it. So we'll research CUNY also. Anybody else? Guys, don't be shy. Throw in some questions. You know what? I hear him out there. I'm going to grab the puppy real quick while you guys might be typing for a second. We have 4 minutes. I hear the puppy running around. I'm going to grab him. I'll be right back. I'm going to keep the microphone here, which is my landline phone. But Loki, his name is Loki. Loki, come here, buddy. There he is. There's Loki. There's Loki. And Viking wants to come too, but we're going to leave him out. All right, Loki, dog, Loki. Let's go show everybody you. Oh, what's that? I'm bringing Loki, and you're going to see him in a second. I don't know why, but he was choking a little bit there. Here is Loki dog, our new black lab. Loki, say hi to everybody. He is so cute, and he's about 8.5 weeks old. We got him from South Carolina. Deb flew back there and picked him up last week. I am trying to avoid traveling because of some of the stuff I'm going through health-wise that I mentioned to you guys last week. He likes being held, but right now he was out there busy running around. So he will get pretty big, 70 or 80 pounds. And right now, yesterday he was 13.8 pounds. And he's a sweetheart, aren't you, Loki? And Loki comes from our theme of naming dogs Norwegian names. And Loki is the adopted brother of Thor. And one of our guard dogs is named Thor. So this is in Norwegian folklore. He is the adopted brother of Thor. Thor was a leader in the Norwegian sort of folklore. And Loki was his adopted brother. So his registered name is going to be Mountain Skies, because our kennel is called Mountain Sky Retrievers. Mountain Skies, brother of another color, because his brothers, oh, he's falling asleep here. His brothers are golden retrievers. Boy, that's pretty cool, buddy. You like this so much you're falling asleep. Any other questions, folks? We got just a couple minutes left. I'll go longer if any of you have more questions. Loki, go to sleep, guy. Looks like I have a bottle and I'm giving him a bottle. He is totally falling asleep. I don't see any other questions yet. Don't be shy, everybody. I'm going to be a little personal for a second to end here. And it relates to all 5 of the keys. Personally, I have a spirituality. Mine happens to be one of a believer in Jesus Christ. Some people call it Christian. Mark and others, we have all kinds of people on our staff that have every different kind of spirituality out there. I happen, like I say, to be Christian, and I feel that's a good spirituality. I feel that lots of people, you all ought to think about that. But I love people, frankly, of every color and creed and religious area, and I think people that are around me at all know that that's the case. And I think through what we're doing at EAT, because we have people that are members from all over the world, that we are really showing that. And in today's world, with so much hate going on out there, I think that's a really important thing. And so that's another kind of one of the 5 keys. All the stuff we're doing farming-wise is great, but what's most important is we treat others in the way that we want to be treated, and we love the sinner or the person that's doing something wrong that we think. We love them as people, and maybe we dislike what we think is the sin, the thing that they're doing wrong. And that's biblical. It's also taught in some of the other religions of the world. But anyway, that's what Loki thinks too, I think. He's falling asleep. All right, Mark, no other questions. Great audience. Thank you, Mark. As always, thank you. We will see you next week. We'll finish up our series here. We'll move on to some other economic topics. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Take us out, Mark.